What is going on? Welcome to the episode. Today we're going to be chatting about how to get out of a rut, because we've all been there at some point or another, and chances are we're all going to be there again because life ebbs and flows. So I wanted to put this episode together to give you a little bit of a blueprint or step-by-step process that I've found has worked for me really well, and I hope it can work for you too. First off, the feeling of being in a rut sucks, right? It's almost like this cloud sort of looming over you. And even in these sparse moments of joy, you remember or almost remind yourself of the fact that you're generally dissatisfied. So it really seems to spoil each and every moment to a degree, no matter how great that moment happens to be. It's almost like it's tainted. At least that's the way I experience it. Now, this underlying feeling of being discontent or dissatisfied leads into step number one, which is to acknowledge that you're in a rut to begin with. Now, that might sound super obvious, but if you don't acknowledge that there's an issue to begin with, apparently there's nothing that needs fixing, right? And you can think about it like an alcoholic. If the person that's abusing alcohol themselves doesn't acknowledge that there's a problem, I've been there, it doesn't matter if the entire world sees it, the individual themselves needs to come to that conclusion. This can be really hard to watch, especially when it's someone that you care about a lot. Now, it doesn't have to be alcohol, right? It could be any other drug, it could be food, it could be technology, it could be a relationship. So the first step is to get honest with yourself around what is. And then step number two is to ask yourself, are you ready and willing? Acknowledging that something isn't working is a crucial first step. However, if you're not quite ready or willing, there's nowhere else to go and nothing else to do just yet. Oftentimes we know that something needs to change in order for us to transcend our current situation, but it takes readiness and willingness to implement the necessary actions, and knowledge in and of itself, unfortunately, isn't enough on its own. You can think about this like an old apartment or house that you're living in that you're on the brink of outgrowing. It's got the items that you need for the most part, like your television, couch, a comfortable bed. However, you're not all that satisfied with the place itself, the building, or the location. However, the thought of searching for and moving to a new spot seems like too much effort. So basically, your general dissatisfaction of your living situation isn't quite bad enough for you to put the effort in required to find a new place and actually move. So you're not quite ready or willing just yet. On the other hand, once that scale is tipped enough in the direction of readiness and willingness, you're thinking about what action steps to take in order to remedy your living situation. And that brings us to step number three, and it's to start making moves. Action ends suffering. So in the case of looking for a new home, you start to search for places online, you set up viewings of those potential spots that you like, you look into the logistics of moving your stuff, you start to get rid of the old and unneeded items in your place. Action ends suffering because it instantly gives you a glimpse of what it's going to be like to be out of that rut. And the reason for that is that you can sort of rest easy knowing that you're taking the appropriate steps to change your situation versus just sitting in the situation, not liking it, yet not doing anything in regards to changing it. The reason the latter leaves such a sour taste in our mouths is because we know deep down when we're not fulfilling our potential and being the best version of ourselves that we can be. Think about it like your fitness level and health. You know when you're not taking good care of yourself via quality nutrition, plenty of movement, and prioritizing sleep. We all know when we're drinking too much, for example, or not putting all that much effort in at work, and we feel it. There is a serious cost to that stagnation. It feels heavy, it's a weight on your shoulders, and the only way to shed it is via taking action. It's actually amazing how fast it can provide you with relief too. So for example, if you're not eating that well and you just decide to eat really healthfully for a single day, you're going to feel better. Then you string 2 days together and all of a sudden it's been a week, 2 weeks, a month, and eventually you're stoked on how you're looking, feeling, and performing. And that's trickling into other areas of your life for the better. You're sleeping better, which is giving you more energy for fun experiences and to put towards the relationships that really matter to you, and on and on and on. I know that it sometimes can feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel and you've just got so far to go, and that can be overwhelming. So I find that breaking things down into smaller chunks makes taking action steps far easier. For example, if you walk into your apartment after you've had a house party and it's an absolute mess, there are used cups, bottles, plates, leftover food, the floor or carpet needs to be vacuumed, it can seem overwhelming when you look at how much total work needs to be done. But when you break that work down into sections, it's so much more doable. So if you get all the cups, cans, bottles, and plates into the kitchen, that's one task down. Then you tackle the kitchen itself, you load up the dishwasher, you run it, and while you're doing that, you start to vacuum your place. And before you know it, 30 minutes in and you've already cleaned most of your place up. The thought of cleaning is often actually worse than the cleaning itself. And that's why action ends suffering, because so many things apply like this. The thought of having a tough conversation is so often worse than having the conversation itself. And you always feel way better after. The thought of taking on a healthful eating approach is typically always harder than eating healthfully itself as well. There's light at the end of the tunnel because you're not in a coffin. And that might sound kind of harsh, but it's true. You're still alive, and chances are you're going to be for quite some time. And you can think about every single action step that you're taking like a rung on the ladder of the rut that you're climbing out of. Each and every step is getting you closer to the surface, and it's getting brighter and brighter. You're feeling better and better. And once you get to the surface, man, that's where the exciting stuff really starts to happen, because now you get to build above ground. You can build a tiny home, you can build a cottage, a house, you can build a fucking skyscraper if you want to. There are endless possibilities at that point. Sure, you may have doubts about your capabilities, and that's perfectly normal. I was listening to an episode of the Tim Ferriss podcast the other day, and he was interviewing a woman who talked about when she's taking on a difficult task, she writes out a list of all the difficult things that she's already overcome in her life, which I just thought was such a brilliant idea, because she said it's like your track record or your tough task resume. Now, it's worth mentioning that this current rut that you might be in could be the most difficult thing that you've ever had to overcome in your life. It's probably not. Most likely you've already persevered through tougher life events than this one. But even if you haven't, even if this is the worst of it, you've still got that track record to fall back on. And the old saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, absolutely applies here. If you're curious about that Ferrous episode, it was number 516, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce a woman's name because I'm going to butcher it, but she talked about her aggressive cancer diagnosis at, I think, 20 or 21 years old, and her story is absolutely incredible. She was in treatment for something like 4 years in her early 20s, and she delves into her journey and how she overcame her diagnosis and how she's living her life now. Highly recommend. The episode also really put things into perspective for me, because when I heard about what she had to go through, I was like, man, if she got through that, I can get through this. And this isn't to diminish my pain and struggle or anyone else's. You feel what you ought to feel. But she's human, I'm human, you're human. And therefore that means if she got through that, I can get through this, and you can too. Now, as far as action steps go, it can be a massive step or a tiny little shuffle if you want. The important thing is that you're moving. You're climbing that ladder. And so if you're looking to get your health and fitness on track, a small step could be something like eating a quality breakfast each day this week, starting today or tomorrow. On the other hand, something big could be completely overhauling your nutrition and only eating single ingredient whole foods that you cook yourself. And then of course, there's everything in between. So first up is to check in with yourself and see where you're at. If you're feeling like you're in a bit of a rut, you probably are. So be honest and ask yourself, am I ready and willing to change my situation? If the answer is no, it's all good. Check in with yourself again in a week or a month or next year and see if you're ready and willing then. If the answer is yes, Take action now. Get that ball rolling and capitalize on the momentum you've just established with a big thing, a medium thing, or a small thing. Anything will do. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. Follow me up on Instagram at N1Fitness and feel free to friend me on Facebook at Marcus Sadu. Leaving an iTunes review really helps the pod grow and to reach more folks. So if you're willing to do that, I truly appreciate it. And if you've already left a review, thank you so much. Lastly, be sure to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're using. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next episode. See ya.